Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Distinguished delegates, dear colleagues. Iran stands today amid the throes of an illegal war imposed by two bullying nuclear-armed regimes, the United States and Israel. This war of aggression is blatantly unjustified and brutal. They initiated this aggression on 28 February, while Iran and the United States were engaged in a diplomatic process to resolve Americans' alleged concerns over Iran's nuclear program. They betrayed diplomacy for a second time in the course of 9 months by torpedoing the negotiating table. Among the most harrowing manifestations of this aggression was the calculated, phased assault on Shajarat Tayyibah Elementary School in the city of Minab, south of Iran, where more than 175 students and teachers were slaughtered in cold blood. This barbaric attack is but the visible tip of a far bigger iceberg, one that conceals beneath its surface far graver catastrophes, namely the normalization of the most abhorrent violations of human rights and humanitarian law, and the audacity to commit atrocity crimes with impunity. Mr. President, at a time when the American-Israeli aggressors, in their own assertions, possess the most advanced technologies and the highest precision military and data systems, no one can believe that the attack on the school was anything other than deliberate and intentional. Targeting Shajarat Tayyibah School was a war crime and a crime against humanity, one that demands unequivocal condemnation by all and unambiguous accountability for the culprits. This atrocity cannot be justified, cannot be concealed, and must not be met with silence and indifference. The attack on Shajarat Tayyibah School in Minab was not a mere incident nor a miscalculation. The United States' contradictory remarks aimed at justifying their crime could not, in any manner, elude their responsibility. To denounce such a merciless assault on a place inherently civilian, a place where the most innocents reside and pursue knowledge, is not merely a legal obligation under human rights frameworks. It is a moral and human imperative. Our conscience will judge us more profoundly than any tribunal ever could. Distinguished delegates, Shajarat Tayyibah Elementary School has not been the only casualty of American-Israeli atrocity crimes during the past 27 days of their illegal war. Human rights and international humanitarian law have been massively and systematically violated by the invaders in an unprecedentedly brutal manner. They are targeting civilians and civilian infrastructures with no regard for laws of war and basic principles of humanity and civility. More than 600 schools have been demolished or damaged across Iran, and more than 1,000 students and teachers martyred or wounded as the result. The aggressors, who are arrogantly shouting, "No mercy, no quarters," and threatening to strike Iran's vital infrastructure, have been attacking hospitals, ambulances, health workers, Red Crescent rescuers, refineries, water sources, and residential areas. War crime and crime against humanity are not sufficiently describing the gravity of the atrocities they are committing. The aggressors' targeting pattern, accompanied by their rhetoric, leave little doubt as to their clear intent to commit genocide. Distinguished colleagues, this unjust war of whims by the United States and Israel against the noble nation of Iran is the direct result of silence in the face of earlier manifestations of lawlessness and atrocity in occupied Palestine, Lebanon, and elsewhere. Indifference and silence in the face of injustices would bring no security and peace. It would invite more insecurity and right violations. The United Nations and the core values it embodies, as well as the overall human rights framework, are at serious stake. You all need to call out the aggressors and let them know that the community of states, the human collective conscience, hold them accountable for the abhorrent crimes they are committing against Iranians. Iran has never sought war. Iranians are a peaceful, noble nation inheriting one of the richest civilizations on earth. Yet, they have demonstrated absolute resolve and determination to defend themselves against the brutal aggressors who know no boundary in perpetrating all sorts of crimes, a defense that shall persist as long as needed. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Before we proceed with the list of speakers, allow me to request to all delegations to deal with human rights issues with dignity, and also remind all of you to adhere to the well-established principles of the United Nations, and this includes to uphold UN standards when referring to countries. The list of speakers is now closed, and we shall now begin with the list of members of the Council, and I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Norway on behalf of a group of countries.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of Iceland and Norway, we welcome this urgent debate. The Middle East is on fire. Human suffering is severe and immediate. Beyond the region, it has growing and profound consequences on global stability, on energy and food security. We are deeply alarmed by the human rights and humanitarian crisis caused by the warfare, with civilians displaced, injured and killed across the region. On the first day of the war, more than 170 children were deplorably killed when the girls' school in Minab was hit. And since then, several schools, hospitals, energy infrastructure and other civilian objects have also been hit, increasing risk to all civilians. This is unacceptable. We call on all parties to respect IHL and to use the tools of the Safe Schools Declaration to protect children and education. Neither the US and Israeli strikes against Iran, nor the Iranian attacks on countries in the region are in accordance with international law. The human rights situation in Iran, especially with regards to women and girls, is intolerable. Once again, we call on the Islamic Republic of Iran to respect all human rights for all. President, we call on the parties to end the war and to find diplomatic solutions to unlock the current stalemate in the region. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the European Union.
Mr. President, I speak on behalf of the EU. Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Liechtenstein, North Macedonia, Moldova, Montenegro and Ukraine align themselves with this statement. The EU deplores the loss of all civilian life and calls for an immediate end to strikes against civilian infrastructure. We call for de-escalation and restraint, protection of civilians and respect of international law, including the UN Charter, by all parties. We are deeply saddened by the loss of children's lives in Iran, including those killed in the strike against the school in Minab. The EU calls on all parties to take all measures to ensure children's rights are fully respected. Attacks against civilian objects constitute a violation of IHL. We call on all parties to take necessary measures to protect children, including ensuring that civilian facilities are not attacked. The EU calls on Iran to cease violence and repression against its own people. The EU calls for the respect of the rights and freedoms of the Iranian people. The EU has taken targeted restrictive measures against those responsible for serious human rights violations in Iran and will continue to do so as long as necessary. The EU fully supports the work of the FFM and of the SR. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Venezuela on behalf of a group of countries.
Gracias, presidente. El Grupo de Amigos en Defensa de la Carta de las Naciones Unidas acoge con beneplácito la iniciativa de Irán, China y Cuba de solicitar este debate urgente. Condenamos en los términos más enérgicos los ataques coordinados e ilícitos contra Irán el 28 de febrero de 2026, incluidos los ataques contra infraestructura civil. Israel y Estados Unidos deben respetar el derecho internacional y el derecho internacional humanitario. Estamos profundamente preocupados por el ataque contra la escuela primaria en Minab, que causó la trágica pérdida de casi 170 vidas, principalmente de niños y niñas entre 7 y 12 años, y